Your relationship probably didn't feel bad all the time. There were times where things felt great, and you were both happy, and then periods of uncertainty, times where you weren't quite sure where you stood, where you found yourself constantly on edge, trying to keep it together. And over time, you adapted. You probably began editing yourself, adjusting what you expected, and sacrificing your needs. You told yourself this was just how relationships worked, and over time that instability or volatility became normal. So when the relationship ended, or even when it just began to fade, you expected some sense of clarity. You thought that the end might bring relief, that once you weren't in it anymore, things would settle down. But instead, you still feel confused. You still think about them, and you replay your conversations. You question your memory of what really happened, and you wonder whether you got things wrong or asked for too much. That's the part people don't really explain. A trauma bond isn't about loving someone too much. It's about what your nervous system learned to tolerate in order to stay together. It forms when connection and uncertainty are mixed together. When closeness comes and goes, your nervous system starts attaching to the relief, not the person. The bond is actually formed in the waiting, in the hoping, and in the moments when things briefly feel okay again. That's why it can feel so strong, even after the relationship ends. And that's why the confusion hangs around. Not because you're weak, and not because you failed to let go, but because the bond outlasted the relationship. One of the hardest things about trauma bonds is that they don't feel dramatic from the inside. They often look quiet. There may not have been constant conflict, and there may not have been obvious cruelty, just inconsistency, connection followed by distance, and warmth followed by withdrawal. Moments that pulled you back in just as you were starting to step away. So your nervous system learned to stay alert. It learned that the relationship wasn't stable, that relief came in bursts, and that safety had to be earned over and over again. And when that happens, attachment doesn't grow through trust. It grows through regulation. The relief after uncertainty becomes soothing. The return after distance feels good. And this cycle becomes the bond. This is why trauma bonds can feel deeper than healthier connections. Not because they are in fact healthier, but because they involve your body, not just your feelings. This is the part most people misunderstand. You can understand the relationship intellectually and still feel emotionally pulled back. Your mind knows what happened, but your body is still catching up. Because your nervous system was trained in an environment where stability was unpredictable. So when things go quiet, it doesn't relax, it waits. And when the relationship ends, that waiting doesn't just automatically stop. That's why you can leave and still feel attached. Why you can see the patterns clearly but still miss them. And why clarity doesn't immediately bring peace. It's not because you're ignoring the truth. It's because your system learned connection through instability. Confusion is one of the clearest signs of a trauma bond. Not confusion about whether you cared, but confusion about your own perception. You might notice yourself questioning things that felt obvious, replaying conversations again and again, trying to work out what was real and what wasn't. This doesn't happen because you're indecisive. It happens because reality kept shifting inside the relationship. What was said one day was downplayed the next, and what was true one week was denied the next. You learn to hold multiple versions of the same experience, and over time, that erodes self-trust. So when the relationship ends, you're not just grieving the person. You're grieving your sense of certainty. That's why people often say, "I don't trust myself anymore." The hardest thing to rebuild after a trauma bond isn't confidence, it's perception. Another part that catches people off guard is how uncomfortable calm can feel afterwards. You expect peace to feel good, but instead, it can feel empty, flat, and unsettling. You might even catch yourself thinking, "Is this it?" Your body got used to emotional spikes, to cycles of tension and release, to intensity as a form of connection. So when life slows down, it doesn't register as safety. It registers as absence. This is why people sometimes return to relationships they know weren't good for them. Not because they've forgotten the harm, but because their nervous system misses the rhythm. It's also why healthier relationships can feel distant or underwhelming at first. There's nothing to decode, nothing to brace for. And this doesn't mean something's missing. It means your system is recalibrating. Time alone doesn't automatically break a trauma bond. Distance changes behavior faster than it changes the nervous system. Memories soften without context, and moments of relief are easier to recall than moments of distress. The body remembers regulation more vividly than harm. This is why urges can come back suddenly, Why a message, a photo, or a memory can pull you back in. Not because you've undone any progress, but because healing isn't linear. Trauma bonds don't just dissolve through willpower, they fade as your system learns a new baseline. And this takes time. Trust is another area that often changes after a trauma bond. Not just trust in others, trust in yourself. So you might hesitate more, second-guess your reactions, or question whether your instincts are reliable. This isn't a flaw. In a relationship where reality kept changing, questioning yourself was a way to survive. It helped you to adapt and to keep going. Afterwards, that habit can be hard to break. The work isn't about forcing yourself to trust again. It's about slowly rebuilding confidence in your own perception. Learning that consistency matters more than intensity, and that calm doesn't mean indifferent. Healing from a trauma bond doesn't look dramatic. It often looks quiet. It looks like noticing when your body expects a spike that never comes, and letting the discomfort pass without chasing relief. Allowing steadiness to feel unfamiliar without judging it. It looks like grieving what you hoped the relationship would become, not just what it was. And it looks like accepting that detachment can feel like loss before it feels like freedom. And none of this means you're doing it wrong. It means your system is learning something new. If you're still feeling pulled back, confused, or unsure of yourself, that doesn't mean the relationship was healthy. It meant the bond was strong, and bonds formed through instability take time to unwind. What feels like attachment might actually be your nervous system learning safety again. So you're not behind, you're not failing to move on. Remember that you adapted to survive an unstable connection. Now you're learning how to live without constant emotional shifts. And that takes time and patience. Like and subscribe for more gentle takes on relationships and letting go.